here is our first read of the Strixhaven Curriculum of Chaos book. We are going to basically be skipping through this book to look at the new ideas and concepts that they present, the new character creation options, and see if they are suitable for use in the DTU setting in Myzelis in Season 2. Going through a little bit of the extra sauce just to see what's there, to see if there's anything relevant, possibly helpful for, character options of more developed characters or setting stuff. But for the most part, we'll be just focusing on the player experience, and then we will let the DMs take a look at the fun DM side stuff, such as the creatures that are introduced and that sort of thing, unless they're strictly relevant to players. If they introduce some additional options for celestials or fiends, things that can be summoned, if they introduce more beasts that people can turn into when it comes to polymorph, that kind of thing, we might skim through those. But for the most part, we'll just be focusing on the new race options, feat, spells, magic items, and a quick look through the college options to see if it's the sort of thing that we might introduce as part of a campaign. Going through the first part here, for people who don't already know, Strixhaven is a Magic the Gathering setting. It's a fairly recent one. It's still in standard, which means it came out in the last year. And the setting is basically a magical school. It's very much like Hogwarts. You have different colleges inside the school, which kind of translates to like in Harry Potter, you have the different houses, Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw and all those. So in this case, you have different colleges, and the 5 colleges get detailed down here, basically about these 5 right here. So I just want to jump to that real quick in case people aren't familiar with kind of what this whole thing is about. But basically, the 5 colleges are Lorehold, which are all about archaeomancy and digging up old ruins and studying them and that sort of thing, and returning things that were lost, that kind of stuff. Then there's Prismari. Prismari is basically about practice of art intertwined with magic, creativity, showcasing performance arts, that sort of thing. And then there's Quandrix College, which is about numeromancy, which is all about the study of patterns and fractals and symmetries, fundamental mathematics of nature. They're very similar to Simic in that they're all about inventing new things and studying the way that like nature and science interact. But in the case of Simic, which is where we get the Simic hybrid, thank you, what we call the hybrid in Myzelis, Quandrix is more about mathematics, and it's more about animate magic. And then Silverquill is the College of Eloquence. It's very much about style and presentation and performance more in the spoken word sort of thing, but also about leadership, and a lot of writing, very big on writing. And then Witherbloom is all about essence. It's about life and death. It's about it's kind of what you think of when you think of how necromancy works its way into a college and isn't all about doing all kinds of horrible stuff that people are why do we have this college at our college if they're just killing everyone? It's more about the study of life and death and the balance between the two, not just the destructive arts of necromancy, but the revitalization and the growth and the life that's the other half of the coin. So those are the 5 colleges, basically. And so I imagine that the stuff that we're about to look at when it comes to the actual mechanics are going to reflect probably an offering from each one of those. So that's what I'm expecting. So with the character options, let's see. We've got new race option, the Owlin. We've got choosing a college, which I imagine some DMs might want to adopt or figure out some way to integrate into their campaigns if they're not too powerful. But it would be more of a situational this is part of our theme for our campaign and not necessarily something that would be like super functional outside of it. So again, if we ever do like world events or banner events, and this is just more of like a general thing, if we ever do anything that introduces people from different tables interacting, the bonus extra stuff that you get from, say, like your college choice, or you know, if you're like very important to the plot in some other way, like if you've got like a special boon that marks you as very important in that person's, you know, that DM's campaign setting, those kind of things don't work when you're interacting with other people's players. You're, you know, everyone's on that sort of even keel, and then when you get back to your plot where it's relevant, everything turns back on basically. So I imagine there might be some people who want to use some of this stuff. We'll see. Then we got backgrounds, we got feats, spells, and magic items. And those are the things that, if they get approved DTU-wide, they are ubiquitous. Any campaign can use them. You can use them in banner and world events. It's all good. So, let's see. Race options. So we've got the Owlin. Yep, standard stuff for ability score increases, languages, creature type, lifespan, height, and weight. This is all just like general stuff, though. We're going to talk about the actual Owlin. Look at that cool art. Yeah. Owlin, unleash magic in the sky above Strixhaven. Imagine you're just like trying to get to class and you're just like, God, what? You know, this magical duel going on over your head. So let's see. Humanoids, medium or small, you get to pick. That's also becoming pretty standard. People are just, you know, you can be big or small, up to you. Speed of 30 feet, dark vision 120 feet. Uh-oh, Gage is starting to look like you were right. It's really just an owl. 120 feet of view of bright light or darkness. And in flight, you have a flying speed equal to your walking speed that only functions in light or no armor. So it does not function in medium or heavy armor. That's pretty brutal. Like, you know, when they give races flight and then they're just like, you know what, here's a gigantic, you know, cumbersome penalty for you. Meanwhile, other races, depending upon when they were made, don't have those. Yeah. And then Silent Feathers, you get proficiency in stealth. And again, I imagine like most races, when you open them up in the character creator, and we endorse this at the DTU, is basically when you open them up in the character creator, if you select the option to basically customize your origin, you will have the option to swap out any skills that you get with a different skill. So even though automatically Owlin gets stealth, if stealth isn't interesting to you, you can pick a different one. I don't see anything about the Owlin that, you know, honestly is a problem. I'm trying to remember if Aarakocra... Someone look up real quick and see if Aarakocra have the same penalty where they can't wear heavier armor. I know, what was it? The tiefling, feral tieflings that have wings, they can wear medium armor. They can't wear heavy, though. And I'm trying to remember if Aarakocra have any penalties. Let's see if we know that off the top of our head. Anyway, we'll look at that later. Maybe somebody will pop up with the answer on that. But okay, so choosing a college. Yeah. So first of all, Owlin. Yeah, all right. They're basically a flight speed with a nice dark vision range. Can't discount that. It's nice to see 120-foot dark vision and not sunlight sensitivity. All right. But like, you know, a skill, flight, dark vision. That seems okay. Spacewalking, flying, 50 feet. Okay, yeah, so they just get a faster flight speed. So the Aarakocra get a 50-foot flight speed and can't wear medium or heavy armor. Well, at least there's an upside. Okay, let's see. So choosing a college. Read the college description in Chapter 1. Okay, again, there's not these specific colleges in Myzelis, so, you know, these are largely irrelevant, but descriptions of backgrounds and feats. If you have Magic the Gathering cards, find a card that appeals to you and build that character. Fair enough. Sometimes, you know, you just need something to get you started. Okay, so let's see. These are... It looks like choosing a college probably gets expanded upon later. It looks like it basically... I thought this was going to be much more involved in here, but it turns out it's just basically saying choose a college, and then it probably gets something later. I know with like Ravnica, there's a whole thing with like picking which guild you're a part of, and there's like all these things you get for being part of that guild. So I was kind of expecting this to be much more expansive, and it's just like, yeah, choose a college, and then it moves on to backgrounds. So we'll move on to backgrounds. Okay, so when it comes to backgrounds, like obviously these are all saying like Lorehold student, Prismari student. Like again, we're also very fluid with backgrounds. So these are mainly going to be introducing new combinations and something of a feature that can be tweaked in flavor and have the same function. So we'll see. Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what's going on here. And I see, yeah, there's extra spells. So this is the kind of stuff I was talking about. This is what it looked like for Ravnica, where they were like, pick a guild, and then you got a bunch of extra spells. So yeah, so we're probably not going to allow backgrounds that just straight up give you extra spells. So this would definitely be a flavor thing. Like this would be if my campaign that I'm choosing to run needs a little special something, I'll do something like this, and this can be a good example for a DM who wants something like that. But this is pretty much an immediate disqualifier, just getting a bunch of extra spells. But let's look at them anyway. History, religion, 2 languages, and this is the Lorehold. This is the one that's all about archaeology. Comprehend languages, identify borrowed knowledge. Ooh, it's a new spell. Locate objects, spirit guardians. Yeah, spirit. Just spirit guardians on any caster. All right. Arcane eyes, stone shape, flame strike, legend lore. Like the rest of these are okay. You just throw a spirit guardians on literally anything. That'd be. Let's see. And that seems to be their features. They just get spells. Extra spells, so that's kind of disappointing. It's a little bit power creepy, you know what I mean? Let's see. Spirit Guardians to protect your thesis while you dig for fossil. Yeah. Okay, so Prismari student is again, it's another chunk of spells, and I'm just going to look at this out of curiosity. Yeah, haste. Everyone gets haste. Yeah, I'm a Prismari student. I just have haste on my, whatever that doesn't normally get haste. It's interesting. This is yet another missed opportunity for druids, the fire druids, to get fireball. I would have expected fireball to be in here. So sad. So yeah, that's too bad. It looks like it's just going to be basically extra spells. What I was expecting with the backgrounds is that there would be a background feature that would be more in line with the background features we already see, where like folk hero is like, local people know that you were very helpful, and that you chased away the whatevers, and they'll give you room and board, that kind of thing. Getting a bunch of bonus spells is like, all right. Rakdos cultist wildfire druid is best wildfire druid. Yeah. Yeah, it's just congrats, more spells. This is also really funny to me, because the idea of getting access to a bunch of extra spells is not like think of it in comparison to a normal background, right? A normal background is basically saying like, this wasn't even your adventuring career. This is what you did before you became an adventurer. And these all have the word student in them, which is like you could have another one that was like, you're a knight, you're an established knight, you're not even a rank and file soldier, you're literally a knight and people follow you. You've probably been doing this for a long time, because like you were a squire for a while and then you became a knight. And these are like, you're just some guy who probably has a massive amount of debt, and is just trying to pass your exams, but oh, by the way, you know more about magic than like the average sorcerer. So yeah. So let's see. Quandrix, they get haste, they get freedom of movement, they get pass wall, circle of power. Okay. All right. I'm interested in the new spells. This is very disappointing. Okay. Dissonant Whispers, Daylight, Compulsion, Confusion, Telepathic Bond. Let's just put Telepathic Bond on anybody. And then Wither Bloom gets Revivify. Revivify on anyone. Wizard, Revivify. Sounds good. Greater restoration on your wizard. Less restoration, cure wounds. Cure wounds on anyone. Inflict wounds on anyone? Come on. Inflict wounds on a sorcerer. Yeah. That's pretty gross. These are all very cool. I don't want to, like, completely, this whole idea. I do like the idea, and I love, as a player, getting access to more spells, and I could see a themed campaign incorporating something like this, but it would need to be everybody gets it. And you may also notice that none of these have any martial option whatsoever. So if you're just a fighter, if you're just like a thief rogue, you join a college and you just don't get anything, which really sucks. Like, unless I am going through this pretty fast, but I don't see anything here. It just says you need to you gain a feat. You gain an initiate feat. I wonder what those are about, but again, like, okay. Yeah, inflict wounds as a sorcerer. Reroll the damage dice, and yeah, it's good times. Okay, so, alright, let's look at feats. Okay. So, feats. Strixhaven Initiate. You've learned some magical theory and learned quite a few spells associated with Strixhaven University. Choose one of the colleges. You learn 2 cantrips and 1 first-level spell based on the college you choose. Oh. Yeah, so those backgrounds are hella banned. Because they give you a feat that gives you even more spells. Oh boy. Wow. Yeah, this isn't happening. I mean, the feat by itself is probably okay, because there are plenty of feats that give you spells. Magic Initiate literally works this way. So it's just Strixhaven Initiate, but it's basically just different. It's different spells. It's focused on something else. So, yeah, the student's pains are really big. Well, to be honest, it is Magic the Gathering. So, there's magic in it. So, it looks like you get to pick a college. The first level spell you can cast without a spell slot. And you can also cast that spell using any spell slots you have. And then you get 2 cantrips based on that. It's based on Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. That could be interesting. Alright, so Lorehold, you get Light, Sacred Flame as your cantrips, and Thaumaturgy. And then you get to pick 1 first level cleric or wizard spell. Oh, you get to pick one. Oh. Okay. Alright. Yeah. That's pretty awesome. Again, not necessarily more powerful than... No, it is. It is. Okay, and I'll tell you why. So, when it says choose 1 X or X spell, you have to consider this. Like, you get to choose 1 Bard or Sorcerer spell. Please use your choice of spellcasting ability modifier. And I don't know, like, I don't think Bard and Sorcerer is that big of a deal, but, like, this and just being like, choose a Cleric or Wizard spell and you get to use Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma on it, that's pretty good. Usually going the other way, like clerics getting access to wizard spells is pretty big. Druids getting access to wizard spells and using wisdom to cast them. That's really strong. So I think this is probably stronger. These cantrips are okay. Druidcraft, Spare the Dying, and Chill Touch. Like Witherbloom, okay, Witherbloom's not as strong. Okay. Prepare to Magic Initiate. Choose a class. You gain 2 cantrips of your choice from that class's spell list. Choose 1 spell of that level. Spellcasting ability depends on the class you chose. Yeah, so this one, it doesn't depend on the class you chose. It's whatever spellcasting ability you want to use, and then you get to use that first level spell. Most of which can be upcast. So, Sacred Flame, Thaumaturgy, Vicious Mockeries, the Silver Quills, yeah, okay. Druidcraft, Guidance, Mage Hand. So Quandrix, you just straight up get Guidance on anyone. Guidance and Mage Hand. The Guidance domination continues. Good lord. and they get this feat for free from their background. So you got Quandrix mages running around at first level with just like, I give guidance and I'm a wizard and I have all these other things too. Oh boy. Okay. So I would say Strixhaven Initiate, as far as power level goes, it is, yeah, the debt is definitely worth it. This is, I think, a bit stronger, but ultimately you are sacrificing, well, maybe not. I'm sitting here trying to think like what's better about Magic Initiate. I think what's better about Magic Initiate is you get to pick 2 cantrips of your choice, whereas this one, it kind of limits you. But then you also need to keep in mind that, like, you know, we allow people to basically reflavor their character however they want. And so you could pretty much pick any one of these spells, any one of these colleges. They won't relate in Myzelis to anything that actually exists unless the DM bakes it in. So really you could just pick whatever one you think is best, and then you get a free spell, you know, based on the chart to the right. So, I don't know. But it is limited. It's not any spell. So it is basically, you know, 2 different classes that you can choose from. So, yeah, feat fine, background no. Yep. That's my hot take. Feat fine, background no. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Strixhaven Mascot, 4th level. Is this the first time? Is this the first time that they've had a feat that requires a level? Oh boy. Here comes that 3/5. It's coming. 3rd edition 3/5. Sneaking up on you from behind. Closer in your rear view than it appears. So, for those of you who don't know, back in 3/5, 3rd edition, I don't know if they did in 4th because I skipped 4th, honestly. But back in 3rd edition, they had feats, and then the feats had prerequisites that were sometimes based on your level. And sometimes they were based on your level in a particular class as well. So I think this is the first time that we're seeing a feat in 5th edition that has a prerequisite of a certain level. There are certainly some feats that are kind of not really good unless you are of a certain level. Like, you know, if you take Great Weapon Master from 1st level, you're kind of, you know, like your attack bonus is probably negative. Closest thing in 5e is Warlock Invocations. Yeah, those are based on levels, but you know, those are kind of a separate thing. This is the first time we're seeing it for a feat. So let's see what it is about this 4th level feat that makes it so much powerful. So first of all, you have to take the Initiate feat first. So that's another thing too. I don't know of any other feats, because that was the thing in 3/5 as well, is that there were no other feats in 3/5 that were like, you have to take this feat first. Yeah, so we're back to feat trees. So this is okay, so you can cast Find Familiar as a ritual. The familiar can take a form of a mascot associated with the college you chose. So there's a bunch of different mascots, which I'm sure stat blocks. And when you take the attack action on your turn, you can forego 1 attack to allow your mascot familiar to take 1 attack of its own with its reaction. If the mascot familiar is within 60 feet of you, you can teleport as an action, swapping places with the familiar. If your destination space is too small for you to occupy, the teleportation fails and is wasted. Once you teleport in this way, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a spell slot of 2nd level or higher to do it again. Okay, so you get to basically swap places with your familiar within 60 feet. Let's see, CR 1/4, CR 1/4, CR 1/4, CR 1/4, CR 1/4. Okay, so they aren't more powerful. They're just, whoa. Sorry, let me actually look at this. 26 hit points, 18 hit points, 27 hit points, 18 hit points, and 22 hit points. Yeah, the hit points are a big deal. Inkling had 60-foot blind sight? Yeah, okay. Yeah. 60-foot blind sight. With a passive perception of 8. I'm very good at seeing nothing. Alright, and then Fractal gets poison immunity. Okay. Art Elemental Mascot has resistance to cold and fire, immunity to poison. Spirit Statue Mascot just has... Look at these skills. Look at their intelligence scores. Okay, so the Spirit Statue actually has a 12 intelligence. Whereas the other ones... It's a familiar with a poor performance skill. That's great. And then this one actually has a positive perception score. With a 13 wisdom and a +3 perception with 60-foot dark vision. Yeah, so I could see people taking the Inkling mascot for 60-foot blind sight. That's, I gotta say, real talk, what's that? Flies at 10 feet? Yeah, it's got a 10-foot speed, and then it flies 30 feet. It's got a 30-foot flight speed. So little parentheses next to it. It can, kind of glorp its way along the ground 10 feet around. The 10-foot blind sight for things like, I think the bat has 30-foot blind sight, if memory serves, and then the flying snake gets 10-foot blind sight. Those are pretty strong, but they're limited by the fact that the familiar is only so smart, and it's kind of weak, and you put it in dangerous situations. This guy's got 18 hit points. Now, he requires 2 feats to get there, and you have to be at least 4th level, and so you're foregoing, like, all of your ASIs just trying to get this thing. But 60 feet of blind sight is pretty strong. Most monsters only have 60 feet of blind sight at most. Most of them have, like, 30, honestly, if that. So, that's pretty strong. But the feat cost, honestly, I don't think it's that big of a deal. If they took both of those feats, more power to them. There are other ways to get the ability to see things that are invisible. It is nice to have that permanently, though. So, Ooze almost as smart as some characters. Yeah, that's true. Plenty of characters, I'm sure, are that smart. So yeah, the attack action thing. Well, I don't know. Let's just look at the Inkling real quick. Has a +5 to hit and deals D4 +3 psychic damage, or it can ink spray to force a con save versus blindness until the end of the Inkling's next turn. Pest mascot gets a bite for +4 for D4 +2 piercing damage. It has regeneration. That's regeneration 5, unless it takes fire damage. That's pretty big. 22 hit points and 5 regeneration. And it grapples things and deals D4 damage. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, pests are cute. Okay. Fractal mascot gets Quantum Strike +3 to hit. +3 to hit. Okay. It deals D4 +1 force damage or 2d4 +1 force damage if the fractal is medium or bigger. What does that mean? Oh, it can just bonus action become larger or smaller. What? Its size category can switch and it can become huge. What? It could just become big, even though it only has 27 hit points. It could just be this huge, very weak thing. That's interesting. Does that mean you could, like, ride around on it? You can ride around on your familiar? Yeah, there's no, it does not appear to be anything about it that says that there's a duration, so it could just be big. So, okay. That's kind of interesting. That's kind of neat. It's a cool little thing that it can do. And it can move through creatures and objects as if it were difficult terrain. Oh, wow. Okay. So it can just straight up go through walls. This is a familiar that can just straight up go through objects. That's going to take some thought. I'm already like, you know, I think everybody at this point is pretty familiar with the Tressym. Tressym are really strong familiars. Like, they're to the point where I'm like kind of like I think we should probably revisit the Tressym discussion about how strong they are. But they do exist, and I think that if it was a little bit harder to get to them, you know, like something like this makes sense to me, you know, where it's like you have to take this feat and you have to take this other feat, and then you get a fractal mascot that can become huge and go through walls. Okay, I can kind of see that. I think the Tressym compared to, like, say, the Rat is not equivalent. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So I don't know. This might be part of a larger discussion that we need to have behind the screen. We'll get on that as a team and see what we think about that, because having familiars now that can just go through walls is pretty strong. And I'm trying to think about how a warlock might try to take advantage of that, you know, like not in a bad way, but I mean just like what's the worst you could do if you were, like, say, a warlock who had a familiar that could go through walls and you could see through its eyes and hear through its ears at any distance on the plane. You know what I mean? Like, that could be pretty good. So let's see. What was the last one? Art Elemental and Spirit Statue. Okay, so Art Elemental is the fire, kind of like a little fiery guy. Let's see. Death Burst. When it dies, oh no. When it dies, it explodes in a burst of colored light. Each creature within 5 feet must succeed on a con save or be blinded for 1 minute. So now there's a familiar that costs you to hurt it. Joyful Glare, +3 to hit, 5 feet, 2d4 plus 1 fire damage. +3 to hit, 30 feet, 2d4 plus 1 cold damage. And then Captivating Artistry. Elemental targets one creature conceived within 30 feet. The target must succeed on a charisma save or be charmed for 1 minute. It's interesting. That one's okay. Yeah, it has some neat stuff about it. I like the Death Burst. The con saves are kind of low, but you have to keep in mind, I don't balance stuff around what they look like right now. I balance them around, say, a Warlock taking the Invocation where they use their saving throw DC for all of their familiars DCs. And then they have like a Rod of the Packkeeper +1 or 2 or something like that, and they've got like a DC 20. And they're just like, okay, DC 20 or be blinded, everybody over there. All because you slapped my familiar out of midair. Or charming creatures with a DC 20 charisma save, which a lot of creatures tank charisma. Wow, it's a pretty good investment, but at least it's an investment, you know? Mordnaissance are worse, for sure. Alright, so Spirit Statue Mascot is the last one. It's got 14 AC. It does not have a flight speed, unlike the other ones. Well, I think the Pest doesn't, obviously. It's just a little crawly guy, but the others do. And then it's actually got intelligence, like the Tressym. It has a pretty solid intelligence. It can speak any languages it knew in life. It is actually the spirit of a dead creature. So it's actually an ancient spirit. So you'd have to work with your DM to basically figure out who the spirit that's trapped inside this stone body is, and that's your familiar, is like some dead guy, some soul that's walking around. That's got implications. It also has a death burst. When reduced to 0 hit points, it crumbles and the spirit returns to the afterlife in a burst of ghostly white flame. So wait a minute, is the implication here with this thing that every time that you resummon your familiar, you're bringing somebody back from the afterlife over and over and over and over again? Oh no! Oh no, I just saw that, Gage. All right, so first of all, we're going to need to have a discussion about what it means to bring back these spirit statue mascots. Secondly, slam +4 to hit, d6 +2 bludgeoning. Pretty standard. It's like a little golem. That's cool. Or medium construct. Oh, it's a medium familiar. And then so slam +4 to hit, d6 +2 bludgeoning. Council of the Past. The spirit statue. This is actually just an extra creature. Like, this isn't even a familiar. This is just an extra creature in your party now at this point. And since familiars aren't limited from using spellcasting items, and this thing can speak languages, I'm going to say this is the most powerful familiar that you can pick up. That's really strong. Okay, so slam +4 to hit. Okay, Council of the Past, 2 a day. Touches a creature. Once in the next 10 minutes, they add a d4 to an ability check of their choice immediately after rolling the d20. And that stacks with Guidance, that stacks with Bardic Inspiration, that stacks with what's it called, the Artificer thing, Flash of Genius. Yes, it stacks with everything. Oh boy, the spirit statue mascot. I'm just imagining spirit statue mascots walking around with three attuned items that require verbal activation. You give a spirit statue mascot like a wand of, wand of magic missiles, or, give a spirit statue mascot like pretty much anything that just doesn't require like actual spell casting class levels, or spell casting ability. That's really good. Not to mention their medium construct. I mean, theoretically, you could equip some armor to it. Like, you could give it a better weapon. Like, I don't know if they're actually proficient with them, though. Yeah, I wouldn't say that they'd be proficient with it necessarily, but it does say any languages they knew in life, and it was a creature. There's an argument here, kind of the same way that skeletons and zombies and like those sorts of things, like they kind of have the proficiencies they had in life. It's just most of the time you only see them with their fists, or a short bow. Okay, well that's all right though. You know what? Like that's a whole investment. That's like, I want to play Pokemon, and there's room for that, so I kind of am okay with this feat too, even with these weirdo mascots. Obviously they would be re-skinned and reflavored, but that one fractal being able to go through solid objects as a scout is like just imagine. There's a lot to imagine there. Is that the one that had regeneration too? No, it did not. Okay. It's like, I was going to say, if it was just taking damage from going through walls, but it was also regenerating, I was like, oh, God. Okay, so, alright, let's move on to spells. So, there's only 5 spells here. So, this is going to be short, but, yes, there's a new necromancy spell. So, let's go through them top down. So, Borrowed Knowledge. 2nd level Divination. Looks like it is Bard, Cleric, Warlock, and Wizard. 1 action, self, material component, a book worth at least 25 gold pieces. Probably your spell book if you're a wizard. Doesn't consume it. That's good. Duration 1 hour. Oh. Whoa. Yo. You draw on knowledge from spirits of the past. This is not concentration. You choose 1 skill. For the spell's duration, you have proficiency in that skill. Yo. Put that on a wizard, and also take the spell that gives you expertise in a skill in which you're trained. That one does require concentration. Yeah, skill empowerment. So you're just like, you know what? I don't know how to do that, but give me like I don't know how long that takes, like 2 actions.
12 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Let me just know everything there is to know about that possible skill. Whew. That is strong. That is a strong spell. Wow. Yeah, yep, there is 1 spell in here. Okay, so Kinetic Jaunt. Kinetic Jaunt, 2nd level transmutation. It is Artificer. Why is it asterisk? Oh, okay. It's like Artificer. Bard, Sorcerer, Wizard. 1 bonus action, self, somatic only, so no verbal. No material either. Concentration up to 1 minute. Magically empower your movement with dance-like steps, giving yourself the following benefits for the duration. Your walking speed increases by 10 feet. You don't provoke opportunity attacks, and you can move through the spaces of other creatures, and they don't count as difficult terrain. If you end your turn in another creature's space, you are shunted to the last unoccupied space you occupied, and you take d8 force damage. So Kinetic Jaunt just makes it so that you can just walk through everybody else's space all the time. Yeah, and plus 10 to your speed, and you don't provoke opportunity attacks. I am imagining this on a lot of those sort of like Gish characters. I don't know if many people are familiar with the term Gish. It's like a fighter that has some spells, basically. Imagine this on, say, a Eldritch Knight. Just forget, I can be wherever I want. I'm a fan of the Hwant. I don't know if that typo was intentional. The Hwant. But I'm here for it. Alright, Silvery Barbs, it's trash. We're going to move on. No, Silvery Barbs is the one that Gage was talking about that we had learned about. So first of all, Silvery Barbs is an enchantment for bards, sorcerers, and wizards, although by other spots in this book, it doesn't matter what class you are because it's first level, so anyone can have it. Casting time, it's an enchantment. Casting time, 1 reaction which you take when a creature you can see within 60 feet of yourself succeeds on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. Range 60 feet, components verbal, duration instantaneous. You magically distract the triggering creature and turn its momentary uncertainty into encouragement for another creature. The triggering creature must re-roll the d20 and use the lower roll. You can then choose a different creature you can see within range. You can choose yourself. The chosen creature has advantage on the next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw it makes within 1 minute. A creature could be empowered by only one use of this spell at a time. So, first of all, I don't know why they added that last sentence. You can't stack the same spell on one target at the same time. It's not concentration for the second part as well. So you can just throw that spell out there, give somebody else advantage on the next basically d20 roll they make within 1 minute, and they get to hold on to it for that whole minute without you needing concentration. It forces disadvantage. Now, we had been spoiled on this spell previously, and I know that people were debating whether or not it turns advantage into triple disadvantage, because it really depends upon how, as a team, and honestly how DMs choose to enforce this when you're rolling the d20. Because on the one hand, it says the triggering creature must reroll the d20 and use the lower roll. The spell's wording is assuming that the person is only rolling 1 die. Because that's why it says must re-roll the d20 and use the lower roll. It's assuming that you're rolling only 1 die. So it doesn't make any exception for situations where, like, say, I am attacking you with advantage, and then you cast Silvery Barbs on me, and now I must re-roll the d20 and take the lower roll. It would almost sound like, basically, if I rolled a 12 and a 17... and you hit me with Silvery Barbs, I would have to re-roll, like, the entire thing, or I would have to re-roll another d20 or something like that. The way that we're ruling this, and this is the way that we've been ruling Lucky as well, so that it doesn't turn disadvantage into triple advantage, is that this spell and other effects like it, like the Lucky Feat, only trigger at the end when you've figured out which die you're using. So if you have advantage and you roll a 12 and a 17 and you pick the 17, the 12 is irrelevant. Now you have a 17 sitting in front of you. I cast Silvery Barbs at you, you pick the 17 back up and you roll it one more time. So basically it's meant to kind of like force one extra chance for something to go wrong. and it doesn't mean, because otherwise it could mean that the 12 is still in play, and that when you re-roll the 17, if you get like another 17, you now have to take the 12. It doesn't mean that. So it's not triple disadvantage. So I'm going to encourage the other DMs to do it this way. I think that it's appropriate because it's kind of like, yes, I understand the spell is poorly worded, but I think that the interpretation still allows for it. And the intention, obviously, is not to do that with it. The intention is to make it so that it's just an additional chance to make someone miss. And it's a first level spell. This spell is already insanely useful from first level to 20th level. You know, like everybody rolls dice. That's the nature of the game. You're going to roll dice from first level to 20th level. So are your enemies. They're going to try and crit you with Vorpal Swords. You're going to want this spell to be like, you know what? That's a nice natural 20. Please roll and, re-roll it and see if you get another 20. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it was intended with this spell, not for them to basically turn even, like, incredible advantage into triple disadvantage. Or if they have elven accuracy, turn triple advantage into quadruple disadvantage. So we're putting it at the end. So when you're done picking your favorite die, that's when you're going to reroll. Because that would be absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, can you imagine some elf is like, I'm going to roll with, triple advantage or whatever. And it's like, how about you have quadruple disadvantage? No, we're not doing that. So Silvery Barbs, still very powerful. Not ridiculously powerful. I think there were also interpretations floating around where it basically said that it negated legendary resistance. That's also not happening. They were saying that basically a success from legendary resistance was the trigger that forces a reroll from Silvery Barbs. It's not happening. So don't expect that to work that way. But still very good spell. Vortex Warp. Conjuration. Artificer, Sorcerer, Wizard. Second level, 1 action, 90 feet, verbal somatic, instantaneous. No, legendary resistance does roll. It's just that when you get done and it turns out you failed, you just ignore the roll. You're just like, I'm out. So there is a roll involved, but it's basically, the roll is irrelevant. So it doesn't matter what features you use on it. But I get what you're trying to say. So verbal somatic, instantaneous. You magically twist space around another creature you can see within range. The target must succeed in a con save. They can choose to fail. How nice. Or the target is teleported to an unoccupied space of your choice that you can see within range. The chosen space must be on a surface or a liquid that can support the target without the target having to squeeze. So it's just teleport someone else up to 90 feet away from you that you can see. Okay. And you can increase the range of the spell by 30 feet for each slot level above second. So what would be like the maximum? So 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. I don't know why you put a 9th level spell into it. But 9, so 200, no, that would be 210. So 300 feet. You can throw somebody 300 feet. And it does require a con save. That's weird. Usually, like with teleportation effects, it's like a wisdom or a charisma save. But this one's a con save, because I guess maybe... Yeah, because you're magically twisting... You're like forcing them. Okay. You're like yeeting them. Okay. That's an interesting spell. That's not that bad. And then Wither and Bloom is a necromancy, druid, sorcerer, wizard. 1 action, 60 feet, verbal somatic material, non-GP material. Instantaneous, you invoke the death and life in a 10-foot radius sphere centered on a point within range. Each creature of your choice must make a con save, taking 2d6 necrotic damage on failed save or half as much damage on a successful one. Non-magical vegetation in that area withers. In addition, 1 creature of your choice in that area can spend and roll one of its unspent hit dice and regain a number of hit points equal to that roll plus your spellcasting ability modifier. And at higher levels, the damage increases by d6, and the number of hit dice that can be spent and added to the healing roll increases by 1 for each slot above second. Interesting. I like that it kind of ties healing to the toughness of your allies. That's pretty cool. And at second level, healing somebody for 1 hit die is a sizable chunk of their hit points. So that's pretty neat. And I like that it also does a little bit of damage, because often with healers, your choice is, do I heal somebody or do I try to get this fight over sooner? And this spell is like, porque no los dos. Yeah, 2d6 necrotic damage, con save. The only thing is, con save, you know, again, a lot of monsters will have a pretty good con save. But still, that's not bad. It'd be interesting if it was tied to how much damage you dealt. You know what I mean? Like you're literally siphoning life out of someone, you know, other things to put it into the person that you're healing. But I could see that being a balance problem. So I appreciate the way that they did it. Well, that's pretty cool. All right, so we're going to move on to magic items. First of all, bottle of boundless coffee. You have my attention. Bottle of boundless coffee, wondrous item common. This metal bottle carries delicious warm coffee. The bottle comes with a stopper, which is attached to the bottle by a little chain. Even when open, the bottle won't accept any liquid other than the coffee it produces. The coffee inside is always comfortably warm, and none of the heat can be felt through the bottle. Well, that's too bad. People like holding on to a warm cup of... each time you drink the coffee, roll a d20. On a 1, the bottle refuses to dispense coffee for the next hour. If you pour coffee from the bottle rather than drinking it, the coffee vanishes the moment it leaves the bottle. So it'll cut you off so you don't you don't have a heart attack. It cuts you off. Like, you need to stop. Get your heart rate down. Try not to... Yeah. That's pretty cool. That's a neat little item. It nopes the user. Okay, Cuddly Strixhaven mascot. Oh, come on. Representing one of the mascots of Strixhaven, this soft, tiny magic toy is perfect for cuddling. If you press it to your arm, shoulder, or leg as an action, the toy stays attached there for 1 hour until you use an action to remove it. The toy can also be used to fight off fear. When you make a saving throw to avoid or end the frightened condition on yourself, you can give yourself advantage on the roll if the toy is on your person. You must decide to do so before rolling the d20. If the save succeeds, you can't use the toy in this way again until you finish the long rest. Well, it's a common magic item that is basically infinitely reskinnable to whatever we want. And it has a mechanical purpose that I think is pretty useful, because when it comes up, it's going to be a big deal. Most people don't like to have the frightened condition on themselves. So I'm suddenly seeing this be like flying off the shelves. Like I'm just seeing this magic item is just going to be ridiculously popular. Oh my goodness. And we have all those mascots for the Guilded sports teams. All right. I'll stop talking about that. Wolves of Sadathria plushies, very nice. Marketable plushies being infected into my D&D game. All right. Let's see. Okay. Now we're getting into it. Wondrous item uncommon. The Lorehold Primer. Attunement by a spellcaster. Lorehold Primer is a magic textbook created at Lorehold College. Okay, yes, I know. The primer has 3 charges, and it regains D3 at dawn. If you make an intelligence, history, or religion check, you can expend a charge to give yourself a D4 bonus to the check immediately after you roll the D20. Stack them up! Let's go! Just keep stacking. In addition, if you studied the primer at the end of a long rest, you can choose one first-level spell from the Quake or Wizard spell list. Oh. Okay. Before you finish your next long rest, you can cast the chosen spell once with a spell slot, without a spell slot if you're holding the primer. Your spellcasting ability for this spell is your choice of intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. Okay. That just gives you an extra spell. And it also gives you a bunch of opportunities for bonuses to history or religion checks. I don't know anybody who's got a DM who's like, please roll 75 history checks. Usually it's like 3. So like this seems like it's going to be very useful, potentially useful. Not to mention, like, you can just like have it on you, and then when you know that you're going to need it, you can like attune to it right before class. All right, Prismari Primer. Also uncommon, attuned by a spellcaster. Seems to be exactly the same, except it is Dex, Acrobatics, or Charisma Performance. That's pretty awesome. It also, I don't know if I mentioned this, but it says immediately after you roll the d20 for the d4 bonus to the check. So once you've rolled the d20, but before you find out whether or not you pass or fail, you can give yourself a d4 bonus. So that's pretty cool. You don't waste them. Potentially, you can be like, all right, I need to make this one. Yeah, you must have the book while you're doing your acrobatics check. You have to have it out. I love the creativity that went into the concept of these. I wonder... Anyway. Okay, so it also gives you access to a first level spell from Bard or Sorcerer. So that's pretty neat. Quandrix Primer is for Arcana or Nature checks. And then a Druid or Wizard spell. The Silver Quill Primer is Intimidation or Persuasion. And Bard or Cleric spell. Okay, those are pretty neat. That's a neat idea. Are we missing one? Witherbloom Primer. Okay, sorry, so it's alphabetical, that's why. And then Witherbloom is Nature or Survival and a Druid or Wizard spell. Okay. And then the Strixhaven Pennant. It's just a pennant that has a symbol on it, and it glitters and sheds bright light in 10 feet and dim light for 10 feet. Good for you. Just a neat little glowy pennant that you can have and you can wave around. Okay. These magic items, perfectly fine. Can't see any problem with them. Probably price them up pretty quick. Yep, hang those up around your house. All right, well, those are the character options. So I think the general thought that I'm having is that the Owlin, of course, naturally, perfectly fine. Choosing a college turned out to not be anything. I thought there was more in here, but then it actually turned out to be the backgrounds was what I was thinking the choosing a college section was going to be, because holy crap, these backgrounds are going to be limited to themed campaigns. They are not going to be generally accessible to characters. That is ridiculous. Just a bunch of free spells and a feat that gives you more spells. Nobody's starting off first level with 2 feats. Like, that's not happening. And a bunch of free spells. And then the feats were okay. Like, Strixhaven Initiate's very much like Magic Initiate. It's a little bit stronger in some ways. It's not as versatile in others. Should be okay. The Strixhaven mascot is just interesting. The mascots are potentially troublesome, but we already allow Tressum. And so I think we might be able to pull it off. We might be able to do it. I think it'll be okay. I can see some issues with that. I think this is one that I'm not going to be able to blanket okay here and now on this hot take first read. I think we're going to need to talk about it as a team, but mainly because some of these are like, you just have an extra dude in your party. Like this, the spirit statue mascot is just an extra person, and they're also an undead spirit. Well, I mean, they're not undead, but you know what I mean. Like they're a soul inside a robot body. The spells seem fine as long as, like, silvery barbs, we all understand that silvery barbs gets interpreted as not, completely busted. The other spells are fine, and then the magic items seem fine. So that would be my hot take on that. And of course, we will post an actual post once we've formalized this and stamped it into the out of character announcements channel, so that people know when those options are live. All right, so the next chapters, I think the next chapters are basically just about like running a Strixhaven campaign. They also have a number of Strixhaven specific like encounters and like sub campaigns, like fun adventures that you can go on. I'm really just sort of like skipping through them real quick to see if there's anything potentially interesting or useful that we might want to adopt, but I have a feeling that this stuff is mainly just going to be guidance for DMs. If there's some neat mechanic in here they want to use, if there's something they want to adopt for their campaign, for like a like plugging into like the Sadathrian College of Expanded Arcana, that sort of thing. This is just more of guidance. Tristan could look through this, that sort of thing. So let's see. We're talking about extracurriculars? Is this like downtime stuff? At any point during the book's adventures, you can just gain the benefit of extracurriculars. So it's just like extra credit courses that you're taking. Character gains a student die for each extracurricular they're participating in. Roll a d4 and add it to ability checks they make, requiring that it's on the list of skills for that extracurricular. And then they also gain a relationship point with a student NPC who is a member of the extracurricular. Oh, I heard about relationship rules. Okay. All right. Well, let's just look at the extracurriculars. This is kind of interesting. Dead Languages Society, so it gets bonuses to skills like athletics and history. There's chess club, horticulture club, intramural silk ball club. What even is that? Cheer squad, student mages of faith. Get a job. Just get a job in here. This is starting to get too real. Let me know, you college kids. This is starting to get a little bit too real. So you're just going on your adventure, but you also have a job. You have to take time off from your adventure to go do a couple of shifts on the weekends. Oh no. Too real. Welcome to the college town where we play D&D. We play D&D about the college, about the college. Yeah, pretty much. This is where we play about the college, in the college, about the college, at the college, in the college town. Yeah, so like I said, I don't think that this is particularly interesting globally, so I'm not going to linger on it too much. It is kind of fun to look through. I am curious about the relationship stuff. I heard about it. Let's see. Using these rules, relationships, encounters. So the reason that I find this intriguing, right, with the whole relationship mechanics thing, is that, like, we sent out, basically, we've had everybody in the D2s go through and kind of, like, pick what mechanics or not mechanics, but, like, what themes they want to see and what they don't want to see in their games. And we gave them the option, these college cops pay more 5 times more in 1 week than a peasant can save up in a year. That's true. They are worthwhile. When it comes to the, like, relationship stuff, more often than not, even if people are comfortable with the concept of relationship stuff happening, it's one-on-one, usually, with your DM. And when there are 6, 7 other people at the table, even when there's only like 3 other people at the table, but especially when there's like 7 other people at the table, spending that much time to try and like get into that stuff can be not always disrespectful, but it's just sort of like, come on, we want to, we all want to have some fun today. We've only got 4 hours. Let's get back into it. And I guess they kind of incorporated these relationship rules to canvas, and I know it says relationship, but like to canvas the width and breadth of all kinds of relationships that people can have with other people, and to kind of provide a mechanic for it, so that if it interests you and if the DM wants to do it that way, they can kind of just sort of make it about roles. You know what I mean? So that it doesn't take up too much time, and you can pretty much kind of, I hate to say it like this, but like do it like a downtime activity. And it's not just relationships like, you know, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, you know, husband, husband, like any of that kind of stuff, husband, 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 or whatever it is. It could also be like your relationship with like another NPC, you know? So it's kind of, a number of DMs like to use rules for, what's the term? For factions, where they have reputation with that faction. And from what I understand, these relationship points things and the relationship complications and stuff like that is kind of a neat way to sort of like make a mechanic that makes it like go a little bit faster, and you can add the fluff, and you can add the role play to it in between sessions. You know, you can go into one of the roleplay channels, or you can, like, you know, just sort of like write something, you know, to your DM, whatever you and your DM have worked out. Basically, you could be like, you know, I spent some time with this person, we do this, that, and the other thing. Okay, go ahead and roll and see how well it went. You know, like that kind of stuff. It's all meant to be very like tongue in cheek and just sort of, you know, we're all just playing a game basically. So this is kind of a neat like way to sort of introduce a concept like that. And there are potentially benefits to deepening your relationship with another NPC, because they may be able to do stuff for you, you know. So there's like even a mechanical benefit to it, even if, you know, it doesn't interest you from like a roleplay perspective. Like maybe you just be like, you know what, I think I will, you know, go see if there's somebody I can befriend here at the college or whatever. So that's kind of interesting. So skipping back out, like I said, most of this stuff is adventures, and I don't want to dig into that, especially if a DM decides they want to use it. But also, there are friends and foes. There are monsters down here. Monster manual, basically, a miniature monster manual down here. And the only reason I wanted to go through it real quick is because there are mechanics in the game that allow player characters access to, say, summon celestials. So the first thing I see here is a celestial. I don't think it's in the range of people being able to summon it, but like there could potentially be beasts you could polymorph into or wild shape into. There could be fiends that you could summon. There could be celestials you could summon, like that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to go through it real quick, see if there's anything relevant of the appropriate CR, and then leave the rest for the DMs to that is a very big robot. Damn. That's very big. We went through before the mascots. I don't understand why mascots aren't under M. Why is it art elemental mascot and not mascot, art elemental? So anyway, Beldros Witherbloom, big dragon, very cool. Brackish Trudge is a large plant, CR3. So this is a potential creature. It is a lumbering mass of sentient fungus and vegetation that lives in the bayou. That's pretty cute. I think there are player abilities that allow you to summon plants or control plants, so that could be a potential. Large construct, so that's not really going to be a thing. Daemogoth, so here's a fiend, but again, CR10. I'm trying to remember, I think it's limited to CR9 if you cast it at 9th level to summon a fiend. I think that's right. So I think Daemogoth might be right out, unfortunately. And then, of course, there's a bigger one. Definitely out. Let's see. First year student? That's not a thing. Fractal mascot. For those of you who missed this earlier, I don't know when people showed up, but like these things can shrink and grow in size up to huge and as small as 1 foot in height. And they also have the ability to go through solid objects and creatures. And that's a familiar option through this new book. Another dragon. A groff, another large plant, CR4. Interesting. It looks like a bear. Patch of moss. It is a hungry groff. It is a shaggy swamp creature with canine faces. So it's like a big swamp dog. That's kind of cute. Look at that guy. He's got little, I don't know, growths on his back, and it's got kind of mossy skin. False appearance. Just looks like a patch of moss-covered bog. Interesting. All right, Inkling mascot. Borrowed scholars. There's just NPCs. Mage Hunter. No. Wait, is a Mage Hunter a monstrosity? Okay. Wait a minute. Monstrosity? CR5? Maybe. The alternative to Froghemoth. Oracle. Okay, that's not a thing. Auric. That's not a thing. Past mascot. Prismatic scholars. Let's see. Relic sloth. What is this? Huge beast. Okay, here's a beast. CR2. 13 AC, 76 hit points. Speed 20, climb 20. It is a sloth. Look at that guy. This big sloth. Perception +3. 20 strength. Awesome. Claws +7 to hit. 10 feet. 2d8 +5 and grapples. And it is slow but sturdy. When it is subjected to an effect that would neither move it out of its current space or knock it prone, it is neither moved nor knocked prone. Okay. It's a potential option for a druid. That's pretty cool. Chrysalids from XCOM? Which thing? This thing? I never played XCOM. Are you talking about the Relic Sloth? Or are you talking about the Quandrix? Oh, the Mage Hunters? Oh, yeah, okay. Silver Quill, Big Dragon. Silver Quill people, okay. I'm just going to zip over here. Is there anything else? No, I think that was it. So I think it's just the Relic Sloth. Rune Grinder's a construct. So it's the Relic Sloth, the Brackish Trudge, maybe the Daemagoth, but I don't think I'm wrong. I think CR10's out of the range. And a Groff. So those are the options if you're thinking of looking through this book real quick to see if there's anything that like might be helpful to you as a player. Otherwise, if you're looking to use it to DM or anything like that, there's a lot more in there. So, and I do think the book came out today in real life, so not just digitally. So I do think it's available now, if memory serves. But at any rate, I think that's all the chapters really there is to go through here. Not quite as much as there was in the Dragon book, but then again, it's a Dragon book, and this one is more setting specific if you're looking to run a game that has to do with a college, and specifically Strixhaven, if you're interested in that sort of thing. But there are some options in here that I think can find a spot in the DTU, and so I would expect that we will put up a post here sometime this week that will go into the out-of-character announcements and detail what we're going to include, what we aren't, and like, you know, maybe a little bit about like what certain things, since everything here is kind of very heavily themed on you know, this actual campaign setting, what we might like sort of generically call it, or how it might be adapted for Myzelis. At any rate, thank you all for being here for this. I appreciate it. The next time that they announce a book, we'll put it on the old block and let you guys know when there will be a first read through. So thank you very much, and I hope you guys have a good evening, and we'll see you next time.